Hello friends and welcome to my channel. I'm Stephanie of Stephanie Stitches and today we're going to work on this fun quilted pillow. I made this for the summer holidays and I decided I loved it so much that I want to make another one for the fall. Autumn is nearly upon us. The weather's cooling off here in Ohio and I'm really excited because it is my favorite season. So let me show you how to make this fun, quick and easy pillow. Well, let's get making this pillow. So the first thing I wanted to show you before we start sewing is that you need 3 fabrics. I call this fabric 1, or the main color, which I use for the border, and the main square. The accent fabric, which I used obviously as the accent, and I also used it as my backing, but this time around I'm going to pick a different fabric for my backing. And then your background fabric. So gather up whichever fabrics you want. It can be seasonal, it can be whatever matches your home. And you're also going to need a pillow form, 20-inch pillow form, and you're going to need a piece of batting or soft and stable. I like to do soft and stable for my pillows because it gives it a little bit more body and firmness in the pillow, and then you can also see the quilting really nicely. So I like to use soft and stable, so I cut this a couple inches larger than our pillow top, which is going to be 20.5 inches unfinished. So I believe I cut this about 22, 23 inches square. So when we quilt it, I've got plenty of space and don't have to worry about being too close to the edge, and we can trim all that up later. We're going to do an envelope back on this, and all of the fabric requirements, cutting, including the supplies you need with the pillow and everything, are in the description box below this video. So now that I've told you all about that, let's get started sewing. Okay, as you can see, I've got all my pieces laid out right here. We're going to make all 4 pieces of this pillow. We're going to make 4 corners that look something like this. Now, I am using background fabric that has directionality, but if you are not, you can just make all 4 pieces the same, and then when we put it together, you just turn the pieces to fit the way you want to make that center square that I showed you in my big pillow. I had to do a little bit of rearranging and cutting in a different way since mine are directional, but I did that on purpose because I absolutely love fabric with words. And I loved this fall fabric. Blue is my favorite color, and this tealy fall blue is just doing it for me right now. So I went ahead and picked this fabric, even though it's directional. If you do pick a directional fabric, you're just going to have to figure out how you need to cut it and turn it to make it work right. Otherwise, you can do every single one of these blocks. There's 4 blocks to make this pillow top all the same, and this is the basic block right here. So let's get sewing this. I've laid it all out. I like to do this with every block I do just to make sure I'm doing everything in the right order, and I'm just going to pick up each row and stitch it. Now, of course, because like I said, I have the directional fabric and I want it all to work out the right way, I'm having to pay a little closer attention than I normally would. Make sure I get all the pieces put back in the right spot. I usually press towards the darker fabric, so I'm going to be pressing towards these. It doesn't really matter for this project which way you press. The cool thing about these blocks is really there's no seams to match up anywhere. So you can press it whichever way you like. If you want to press them all one way, if you want to press your seams open, if you want to press it towards the dark fabric, that is entirely up to you. There's nothing to match up, making this project the most easy, beginner-friendly project because there's no fussing and no worrying. Really, the only seams we have to match up are the 2 rows that will make up this pillow top. We just need one to go one direction and one the other direction so that they nest together. But other than that, nothing to match up. So really fun, quick project. The longest part of this project that I found when I made my original red, white, and blue pillow was actually the quilting. The stitching didn't take any time whatsoever, so, and that's just because I decided to quilt it kind of fancy on my domestic machine here. So I took the time to really do a lot of kind of custom quilting. I don't know what I'm going to do on this one yet. I haven't decided, but I'm going to share that with you guys as we go here. So I'm going to do this whole project from start to finish. I won't leave you hanging. So now I've already made the other pieces just to save some time, but you're going to make all 4 pieces just the same as what I'm showing you here, and you can see how quickly this is sewing together. So after I get this last piece stitched, I'm going to go ahead and iron these or press these, because pressing is definitely imperative to make your piecing come out beautifully. And then after that, we'll stitch all these rows together, and that's it. You have to make 4 sets of those. Once you've made 4 sets of those, we can put this pillow top together. So I'm going to go ahead and press these and come back, and we'll sew the rows together. Then we'll press that, and we'll be able to put our quilt pillow top together. Okay, I've got all my rows pressed, so now I'm going to start sewing those together. Again, super easy, no seams to match up. It's just sewing the rows together. And of course, we'll press all of this before we join it to the other block. And one more. All right. Now I'm going to give this a press, and I am going to make a note on pressing instructions here. I'm going to press these rows up and away from this blue piece, and I'm going to push or press this bottom row down away from it. For the reason is, when we sew this together, the only place where we have matching seams was when we put these blocks together, is right here. This piece matters. The rest doesn't matter, but this does. So these are pressed in, so I'm going to press both this row and this row out, so that way these nest up really nicely and we get that nice line that we're looking for to make it look like it's one continuous piece. That's the only place I would say you might want to pay a little attention to pressing. Otherwise, the rest of this is pretty simple. I just kind of always follow the rule, like I said earlier, of pressing towards the colored fabric, but you can do it any way you want. I know a lot of you like to press open everything. That's fine too. But for nesting purposes, I would press this bottom row down and these top 2 rows away this way. Okay, so there we have our block. And you're going to have 4 of these. They're all going to look the same. And what you're going to do is turn them to make sure that you get this continuous, whatever your main fabric is, you want this continuous kind of line around to make this square. So I'm going to match up this right here. I'm going to make sure those nest. And we're going to stitch these together. Now, if you're a pinner, you might want to pin it there. I'm not a pinner. I know that probably would make this a little bit easier than me having to slow down and hold this and feel for the seams, but every time I pin, I draw blood. And I don't like to bleed on pretty fabric, so I don't pin unless I absolutely have to. So. Okay, So there we've got it. Oh, that came out really nicely. So let me grab our top row. This is my bottom row, and this is my top row. So hopefully you guys can see this a little bit. If I put these two together, we've got this inside square with the teal, and then the orange is my outside accent piece. So if you don't like this design, you can flip these blocks until you find a design that you liked, that you could change. If you put this together and you go, and you don't have directional fabrics, and you go, you know what, I don't like that teal making that box. Maybe I'll try the orange. You could do that. This is what that would look like. Let's change this. You can change it to look something like this. Instead of having the big open square in the middle, you can make it look like that. And that's also really pretty. So you can kind of do whatever you want with this. I'm going to keep it like this because, like I said, I love blue. So I love that the main color is this blue color. I press the top row to the right. So I'm going to press this bottom row to the left. So I make sure that these nest up really good. We're going to have to make sure that they nest here, in the center, and here. And that's it. So let's go ahead and press this guy. And then we can put these rows together. Quick and easy. I love this project. I know I pre-sewed a few of these blocks, but it really only took me just a couple minutes before I started filming. Especially if you chain piece these. You can do this really fast, and it's a lot easier if you don't use directional fabric. That makes it go even faster. So if you're newer to sewing, I would recommend not using directional fabric. You can definitely do it. It's just a little bit more difficult, and you got to think a little bit about how to cut. Gosh, I really love this fabric. This fabric has been in my stash for a while. It's an older Core Yoder line. And I forget what it was called right now, but it was a fall line, of course, autumn. And the fabric is just perfect. It really looks like fall today outside. And I'm enjoying that because it's been a really humid, hot summer. And today it's a little bit breezy, cooler. It looks like it's gonna rain. It's supposed to, I think, anytime. But just the thought of the season, autumn almost being here, it just invokes really good memories. So I love autumn. My kids love autumn. We love to go apple picking and getting pumpkins and things like that. So I don't know, this is making me very happy that fall is almost here. So okay, so hopefully I did a good job. Yes, they match there, they match here. Those are the two almost I want it because I want it to look like a continuous piece after we get this all done, and I matched in the middle. So perfect. Those are really, like I said, the three seams you need to match here, here, and in the center, and you're golden. Okay, so I'm going to give this a press. And then I'll get set up with everything and show you my quilting process. But this is the top, and your top piece. Oh, you know what? I just realized that I was skipping ahead. We have to put on our borders. So we're going to do that next, actually. So I'm going to get my border fabric, which I don't have over here. So I'm going to go grab it and come back, and we're going to put our borders on this piece. Because I was looking at it going, this isn't quite 20 inches yet, because I haven't put my borders on. So let's go grab the borders, and we'll put that on this pillow, and then we will quilt it after that. Okay, I've attached my two smaller borders to the left and right, which is the 16-inch borders, and now I put one on the bottom, the longer one, the 20-inch, 20 and a half, I should say, and now we're going to put the one on the top. So do left, right, and top and bottom. And I always backstitch at the beginning and the end of borders. That's just a habit from being a long arm quilter. Because that's honestly where I see most people's issues with most people's quilts, because I long arm for customers. They tend to, the borders can pop apart when you put it on a long arm. So I always recommend doing that, and I always do it in my own projects as well. Just holds everything together so much nicer, and you don't have to worry about anything coming apart. All right, so I'm going to give this a press. I want to set the seam on this side first. It's a big long piece. Oop. And I'm going to flip this out. And after we give this a press, then we're going to grab our batting or soft and stable. And if you would like, you can grab a piece of muslin or just plain fabric that you might have extra laying around, like plain white fabric, if you want something on the back, like making a quilt sandwich. But honestly, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stitch this right to the soft and stable and not worry, because it doesn't really need a backing. You're not going to see it after you put the pillow form in, when we put our backing, our envelope folded backing on this pillow. So far, this is what my pillow looks like. Ooh, I really like it. I love the colors. Loving this teal blue. This is going to be perfect for fall. It'll be so cute. All right, I'm going to go grab that soft and stable, and then we'll start to quilt this. As you can see, I've got my piece together quilt, or I should say pillow piece here with my soft and stable. And I did want to mention a few things I used. One, I like to use 505 temporary adhesive spray and spray this top to the soft and stable so it doesn't move, but that's entirely up to you. You can baste it, you can take your chances, do whatever you like, but I wanted to let you guys know what I used. And then I also I like friction pens. I know there's some controversy with friction pens. I've never had an issue with lines coming back, knock on wood. There's always a first time for something. At least not with the black. The red pens I've had an issue with, but not the black. So I drew my lines, and as you can see, I'm just going to do this diamond or cross hatch pattern on this pillow top. The other one I did some custom quilting, and I really love the way it turned out, but it did take me quite a while. So for this one, I'm just going to do the cross hatch. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention before I started quilting this is that I did increase my stitch length. Typically, I stitch with about a 1.8 stitch length when I'm piecing. So I did increase my stitch length to about a 3 to give it more of a quilted look and not using tiny stitches on this. And as you can see, I'm just pressing this to get all these lines off. They come right off with the iron. This is why I love a friction pen. And again, like I said, I've never had any issue with lines coming back, although I have heard people say that they do, but usually once you wash something, especially a quilt, they don't come back, but they can leave ghost lines. The red friction pens can leave ghost lines, so I don't recommend using red. But I've never had a trouble with the black, so I'm going to stick with it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to use a friction pen if you're going to mark your piece. like I did for quilting lines, you can use your favorite marking. A lot of people like the chalk markers, air soluble, water soluble. Use whatever you like for sure. I do like the air soluble pens, but sometimes if you're doing a larger piece or you're a little bit slower of a sewist, which is totally fine, they disappear before you can get to them. And that can be frustrating because then you just have to draw them all over again. So, yeah. I've done that for a few things. A quilt that I was working on that had some embroidery. I used an air soluble, and it was just fine because it lasted just long enough. But honestly, by the time I was done with the embroidery, because I don't really like hand stitching and it takes me a long time, the lines were almost completely gone. So just one warning about that. My iron cooled off a little bit, so I'm going to get it hot again, and I'm going to finish ironing this and get all these lines off, and then I'm going to trim this right up next to my border, and then we will work on the envelope back together. Okay, here I've got one of my backing pieces. Now you're going to have two of these. Again, they're 20.5 by 12 3/4. The first thing I did is we're going to have to fold over the edge on one side, the long edge. And we're going to fold it over at 1/2 inch, and then we're going to fold that in on itself. So 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch, or I think it's easier to do the 1/2 inch first and then fold the quarter, open it up and fold the 1/4 inch in. And I like to mark that with my friction pen and go ahead and iron that along that line. So I wonder if you guys can see that line that I drew, and that's going to disappear when I iron it. I just find this way to be a little bit easier. And let me turn my iron on, that would help. So we're going to do this to both pieces of our backing fabric. And this is just a simple envelope fold. There's videos out there if you would prefer a zipper fold or something like that. But today we're just going to do this the easy way. So we can get this pillow done. The nice thing about an envelope fold is it's really easy to pull the pillow out. And if you need to wash it or replace it, they deflate after a while. And it's nice if you want to pull the cover off and wash it. It's really easy because there's not a zipper like banging around in your dryer, kind of that sort of thing. So I do like the envelope fold. Of course, a zipper fold looks a little more professional, but quite frankly, this is just for my use. It's not for show. This pillow is going to go on my bed, so I don't really care if anybody else sees it because I'm making it for me. So, and if you're making it for a gift, if somebody doesn't like that, then maybe they're not gift worthy. We always say they're not quilt worthy. Same rule applies here. So, at any rate. All right, so I've pressed over that 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is open it back up, and I'm going to fold it in 1/4 inch, and you can see how small this is. So that's why I like to do the 1/2 inch first, because I think it's really hard to do the 1/4 inch and then do the 1/2 inch. And then I'm just using my fingernail and creasing it. And if you don't have fingernails, if you've got some kind of pressing tool or something like that that you can crease this with, a hard edge, a coin, a quarter will work. Just to sort of put that crease in there, because what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to press this along this line right now, because if I do, I'm going to take out potentially that 1/2 inch press that I made, and then I'm going to have to start all over again because I'm not going to know where I was. So that's what I like to do, is give that a little finger press, and then we're going to fold this in. And after I fold this in, so the raw edge should be completely inside now, I'm going to press it. Okay. So I'm just tucking this in as I go here. Give that a good press so it stays over. And because I've already creased it with my finger, it should stay pretty well. Okay. Now I've got that edge all tucked in, that raw edge. And I'm going to top stitch this shut so it doesn't come open, and it keeps that raw edge contained. So you're going to do this for both pieces of your backing fabric, and see we've got a nice finished edge. And then you're going to grab your pillow top and you're going to put it pretty side up. And as you can see, I've already attached the one side. So we're putting right sides of the fabric together. So pretty side to pretty side. And we're going to make sure those finished edges are pointing towards the middle. And I'm going to use my Wonder Clips here. And I'm going to clip this. If you're a pinner, you can pin. As we talked about earlier, Stephanie does not like to pin. It's too pretty. This fabric's too pretty to bleed on. And I'm going to start with clipping my short sides. And then I don't really put much in the long side. I'll clip one to begin with. And then when I take these clips out, I might add it. And then we're going to go ahead and stitch. And this one, I went past the end just a little bit to hold it in place. And I'm going to do the same here, but I'm going to back stitch a couple of times to hold this down, because this is where our opening is and this is where we're going to turn it. So we don't want to tear this out when we turn this whole project inside out. So pretty side to pretty side, 1/4 inch seam allowance here. And if you had just quilted this piece, make sure you turn your stitch length back down to a shorter stitch length. That way this holds up for you. And I'm going to go right off the edge and cut my thread. And then I'm actually going to do the other edge, the short edge, and then we'll do the long edge last. And again, I'm just back stitching one time at this edge, but I'm going to back stitch a couple times at the finished edge. So when we flip this, the stitches don't come apart. All right, now let's do that long edge, and that's the last of this, and we can just, and we'll get to turn this inside out and see our finished project. Almost there. All right, so that is done, and before I turn this, I'm gonna grab my scissors and I'm gonna very, very carefully snip these corners just a little bit. I'm not cutting through the threads where they cross or anything. It's just to make it easier to press this out. Okay, put those away. And if you have a tool to turn this or press it out, that would work. I've got this like stick that I use. And we're just gonna pull that pillow right side out. Oh, you can see my quilting on the back pretty well. The soft and stable really makes your quilting kind of pop out, which I like. I'm going to use my stick and push out those corners really well. Get a nice corner there. Now, some people like to press this before they put their pillow form in. I don't really think it makes much difference, and actually sometimes when I've tried pressing it, it makes the fabric lay in a kind of weird way. So I'm just gonna let it fall where it wants to. Just make sure these corners are really good. All right, so there's my pillow front with it totally turned and without the pillow form in. So now we just have to take our pillow and insert it in this opening. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will come back and show you my finished fall pillow. All right, so we finished our pillow. I hope you enjoyed that. Here's a look at my red, white, and blue pillow again, and I'm so excited. Fall, my fall pillow, my autumn pillow. It's so cute. And here's my backing. I love it. The other thing I was going to suggest is that if you don't like the open backing, but you like the ease of the envelope, you could put a little snap right here, or you could put a button right here, whatever you like. But I just love this pillow. I love how it turned out. I love the colors, and the quilting was so easy. And look how the soft and stable makes that quilting kind of pop. I love that. So I'm super excited. I'm ready for fall, and I hope you are too. And I hope you enjoyed this project. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more videos like this. Bye.